Daniel Sports Center, we go over a college football game preview and prediction on the 2023 ReliaQuest Bowl matchup between the Mississippi State Bulldogs and the Illinois Fighting Illini. Both teams have had great seasons getting to this point. Mississippi State is 8-4 heading into this matchup, ranked 22nd in the country. It's been a great year for Mississippi State, but it has been a very difficult last few weeks for Mississippi State with the tragic passing of Coach Mike Leach, which not only is just a saddening and tragic loss for Mississippi State, but also for the entire country. And so for Mississippi State, they're going to be playing and they're going to be fighting for their coach Mike Leach in this matchup as they take on Illinois. Fighting Illini, one of the big surprise teams of the Big Ten this season, getting up to 8 wins. It's been a great year for the Illini as well. We'll be covering a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today, starting out with your team trends. Mississippi State beat Ole Miss 24-22 on the road in the Egg Bowl, which was an outstanding win for Mississippi State, getting up to 8 wins in the regular season and obviously beating the rival there, and that places them at 22nd in the country heading into this matchup and also on a 2-game winning streak. As for Illinois, this team, they beat Northwestern 41-3, so a dominant win there for the Fighting Illini to finish out the regular season. They did lose 3 straight prior to that Northwestern game. They lost to Michigan, Purdue, and Michigan State. All 3 games were within 1 score, and that Michigan game especially, I was very impressed with the fight that Illinois put up, but in the end, they did take a couple of losses there, but still 8-4, a great record for the Fighting Illini. And quite honestly, I feel like Illinois, I know that they didn't win the West Division, and they did lose to Purdue, but Illinois, I feel like, was the most complete team in the Big Ten West this season. You look at how this team performed for the majority of the season. Yeah, they took a couple of close conference losses, but I was most impressed by Illinois out of the Big Ten West this season. And so this is a chance for them to prove against a good Mississippi State team that they really were truly one of the best teams in the Big Ten this year. Games be on Monday, January 2nd in Tampa, Florida. Kickoff is noon Eastern. Spread's going with Mississippi State by 1.5. Over-under is 46, and the FPI is going with the Bulldogs as well, 54%. So the Bulldogs are favored by a slight margin here. Series history is actually tied 1-1, but that last game was in 1980, so it's been just over 40 years since we last saw these two teams play each other. Stat comparison, Mississippi State is 39th in points per game, 54th in points allowed. This team is a talented team on both sides of the ball. Offensively, they get 33 points a game, which is definitely a better stat offensively than Illinois. But I will say this, I mean, while Mississippi State might have the better offense, Illinois has got the better defense. The Fighting Illini are second in the country in points allowed. They only allow 12 points a game, which, I mean, is pretty outstanding. You consider all of the strong defensive teams around the country. Turns out Illinois is the second best team in the country when it comes to points allowed per game. But for Mississippi State, this team is a true air raid offense. They're 10th in pass yards a game this season, averaging 314 pass yards a game with Will Rogers, who's passed for over 3,700 yards, 34 touchdowns, 6 picks. Yeah, he's had a great season for Mississippi State, and it's been that way the past couple of years with Will Rogers. But Mississippi State is 128th in rush yards a game, so when it comes to the backfield, this team isn't quite as strong of a team, as they are the 4th to worst team in rush yards a game. And then for yards allowed, they're 52nd in both pass defense and rush defense. If you look at the Illini, this team is not a strong team in the passing game. They got Tommy DeVito, who is the Syracuse transfer quarterback. He's had an okay year, 2,300 yards, 15 touchdowns, over 4 interceptions. But the true standout on this offense has been Chase Brown, who rushed for over 1,600 yards this season and 10 touchdowns. But the thing is, for Illinois, there's going to be no Chase Brown for them. He has opted out of this game, so he is not going to be around, and that's going to be a brutal loss to this offense. I mean, this offense is already, they've been good this year, averaging 25 points a game. It's really been the defense that has shined for this team, but not having your key playmaker in Chase Brown, I do think is going to have a huge impact on how this offense is going to be able to perform, so something to keep in mind. But yeah, they were 8th in pass defense, 9th in rush defense. So you go back to the defensive side of the ball for the Illini. That's really where this team has shined this season, as they are one of the best defenses in the country. Recent matches, Mississippi State, they beat Ole Miss 24-22. That probably was their best win of the season. I mean, they also beat Texas A&M, who's ranked 17th in the country, but yeah, it turns out Texas A&M was just a mess this year. What a disappointment the Aggies were. But yeah, Mississippi State, they had a couple of great wins this year. They, of course, did take a couple of brutal losses down the stretch. They got beat up by Georgia and Alabama in their last 5 games. They lost to Georgia 19-45, lost to Alabama 6-30. They did beat East Tennessee State 56-7, also beat Auburn in overtime. But if you look before that, they also blew out Arkansas 40-17. That was a really impressive win there as well. They beat up Arizona, who's been okay this year, beat up Memphis. And obviously that Texas A&M win 42-24. So this team has shown potential this year. They just have had a couple of disappointing losses down the stretch. Alabama and Georgia, both outstanding football teams. I wouldn't have expected the Bulldogs to beat either of them, but they were both blowout losses. As for Illinois, they beat Northwestern 41-3, lost to Michigan by 2. Really hung in there, though. That was a close game all the way up to the very end. They lost to Purdue by a touchdown, lost to Michigan State by 8. Did beat Nebraska on the road 26-9. Illinois, this team, they've really, especially if you look at the earlier parts of the season, this team was 7-1 at one point. And defensively, that's once again been the main reason why this team has been so good this year. You consider it too. They did lose to Indiana back in week 1. That was their second game of the season back in week 1. Lost that game 23-20. You flip that Indiana game, which should have been a win for the Illini. That makes them 9-3. If you flip even one of those last 3 losses that were super close, this Illinois team is very close to being a 10-2 football team. All 4 of their losses were within 1 score. So this is a talented football team here in Illinois that's really been competitive this entire season. Your key points for Mississippi State in 4. Once again, I rest in peace to Coach Mike Leach. That's just such a tragic loss. And when I first heard the news of his passing, so sad because of how much of an icon he truly was in college football. And college football is never going to be the same without him, and he's always going to be remembered. That is a guarantee. And so for Mississippi State here, this is a team that's going to be playing for him. They've got a true air raid offense with Will Rogers. And this is a game that's very interesting with all of the storylines and everything going into it. And for Mississippi State, this team, they have got a lot to play for here. And for Illinois, I'll still guarantee you that they're going to put up a fight as well, considering how great of a season it has been for the Illini. But Illinois, a true surprise team this season. I don't really think anyone expected Illinois to get up to 8 wins. This was a team with Tommy DeVito and the amount of inexperience, but we should have known. Brett Bielema in the Big Ten, he manages to make really good teams and develop really good teams in the Big Ten. And so for Illinois, this team being 8-4 with Brett Bielema, shouldn't be too surprised. But this team has been a surprise team considering where they've been the past few years. But Jace Brown, they will be without him. Their star running back who is declared for the NFL draft. The defense is really where Illinois shines, and they're still a bit shorthanded defensively as well. So, it's something to keep in mind. Illinois isn't really they don't really have their best lineup heading into this matchup. And so this team is a bit shorthanded. They might not be quite as good as they have been all year. But for Mississippi State, for the most part, they got everybody in this game, and I'll guarantee you they're going to be ready to go for this one. But that said, let's get the prediction here for Mississippi State and Illinois. Coming up here in the ReliaQuest Bowl, in this one, I got to go with Mississippi State 24-13. I think the Bulldogs win this game in the end. They win it for Coach Leach. And it would truly be, I usually don't pick sides in a matchup like this, but I think most of the country is hoping Mississippi State wins this game. I got nothing against Illinois whatsoever. I think the Illini have had an awesome season. And I think, this is a great stepping stone into the future for Illinois. And I think they've got some success coming for them. But for Mississippi State in this matchup, I just think this would be an awesome thing if the Bulldogs won this game. And this isn't a biased prediction either. I think Illinois, with their losses, no Chase Brown defensively, Witherspoon is out. So they do have multiple key players that are out. Mississippi State in the end, I think, is a really solid team coming off of obviously their great win in the Egg Bowl. And so I think Mississippi State rides that, and in the end, they get the win 24-13. I see a lower scoring matchup here. Mississippi State wins at 60%, over under 46. I'm taking the under, and the Bulldogs to cover the spread in the end. But let me know your thoughts and comments below on this matchup, and I appreciate you guys all watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.